Hi, today on Nat Chats I want to talk about pre-settlement inspections. When you purchase a property, you're entitled to come back in the 5 business days prior to settlement to re-inspect the property. We call that the pre-settlement inspection. Now, the purpose of a pre-settlement inspection is to determine that the seller has complied with their obligations under the contract, and that generally means 2 things. The first is that the property is in the same condition as when you inspected it prior to making your offer, and the second is that any special conditions or warranties that have been included in the contract are complied with. What we mean by the latter is that often properties are sold with certain conditions or very commonly warranties. The common kinds of warranties are that, for instance, the gas, electrical and plumbing items in the property are in good and proper working order. Now, it's really important when you come back to do your pre-settlement inspection, if you've got those warranties, that you actually check them properly. Because if you miss something, say for instance, if you miss checking whether a tap is working or not, or a toilet is flushing correctly, or a stove is heating correctly, and you move in and find out that those items aren't working, it's too late for you to request them to be repaired. The liability has already transferred over at settlement. It's a good thing to bring a charger or a hairdryer with you to the inspection so that you can check PowerPoints. And some settlement agents may also provide you with a handy list that you can follow in the pre-settlement inspection also. Be wary though of some of those lists because they can include items that actually don't fall under the pre-settlement inspection, and they're not obligations that the seller is contractually obliged to repair. The pre-settlement inspection is not a building or maintenance inspection. Really, when you're purchasing the property, you should be making sure that you go through and thoroughly kick the tyres to see what condition the property is in. If you come back to the pre-settlement inspection and notice, for instance, that a window pane is broken or something else that's a maintenance item is in need of repair, you're not able to request for those items to be repaired prior to settlement. They are in the condition that they were in when the property was inspected, and the seller's under no obligation to do any further works. So before you make your offer, make sure you inspect the property thoroughly, and be aware that when you do your pre-settlement inspection, it's not an alternative to a building inspection or having thoroughly inspected the home prior to making your offer. If you were concerned about maintenance items or anything of that nature, they should have been included as conditions in the contract, or you should have just simply taken that into consideration when you actually made and presented your offer. Another thing we recommend during the pre-settlement inspection is that you take notes. That way, if there's anything that you're not sure about, you can have a conversation with your settlement agent. And it's important to go back and report on the pre-settlement inspection with your settlement agent. Your settlement agent is your representative in the transaction. If you've got any questions, you'll need to direct those to the settlement agent and not just the selling agent. And if it does turn out that there was a warranted item that needs to be repaired, your settlement agent will liaise with the seller's settlement agent to make sure that that happens prior to settlement also. Be aware though that you're not actually able to hold up settlement for a warranted item. So that's a discussion that you need to have with your settlement agent as to where you stand and what can be done and not done. We, for instance, have a condition in our contract that if a warranted item such as gas, electrics and plumbing isn't in working order and can't be repaired prior to settlement, that quotes can be obtained and there can be an adjustment made for that prior to settlement so that you can get it repaired, but you're reimbursed for doing so after settlement. So just be across the conditions of the contract and talk to your settlement agent if you have any doubts. Above all, what we're hoping for is that the pre-settlement inspection goes well and that you enjoy the process of purchasing and moving into your new home. But make sure that you be informed, make sure that you've done all your checks thoroughly in the first place before you make an offer, and that way you're not going to be caught out or disappointed when it comes to the final part of the process. Have a great day.